In this movie, we'll be adding the JavaScript that handles reading in the search field value and using that to generate a dynamic list of possible states that the user could enter. If you're following along with the exercise files, we're looking at AJAX/chapter05/05/script.js. We're down here at the bottom where we've put up a shell of the search suggest function, but we haven't actually put anything there. So let's start doing that now. The first thing we're going to do is set up a new string. Var string equals document.get element by ID search field. This is the function that gets called anytime they press a key. So the first thing we need to do is get the new value in the field. Next, we want to clear any errors that there might have been. So we do that by setting the class name equal to nothing. If there's an error, class name gets set to be error. Because they've just typed something in, we don't know whether or not there's an error, so we'll start off setting it to be nothing, and then we'll set it to be an error if later on we find there is one. So now we want to see if our new string isn't equal to nothing, which means they typed in something. And so we need to set the inner HTML of the pop-ups div to be nothing as well. So document.get element by ID pop-ups dot inner HTML equals nothing. Because we don't know what they've typed in yet. And it could be that they've typed in something that rules out some or all of the possibilities that were in that pop-up earlier. So we need to start all over again generating it from scratch. And here's where we do that. For var I equals 0, I less than states array dot length. We're now going to loop through the states array, looking to compare what's in it to what's been entered. And the first thing we do is we set up something called this state. And that is going to be set to states array sub I dot node value. That is the state that is saved in the ith position in the states array. So that's what we're going to compare our string to. If this state dot to lower case dot index of string dot to lower case equals 0. What that is that they might be typing in uppercase, they might be typing in lowercase, they might be typing in some mixture. We don't know, but we want it to still be set equivalent if they've typed in something that matches. So we're going to take whatever they entered and make it lowercase. And we're going to take our state name and make it lowercase. And then we're going to see, do we find one inside the other? If they've typed in new, N-E-W, we want to find New York, New Hampshire, New Jersey, and so on. New Mexico. So we want to see, this is what they just entered forced into lowercase. If we find this string inside the state name, that's the index of this state to lowercase. If we find it at position 0, that means it was found, and found at the beginning of the string. We don't want to just see if it's there anywhere. Maybe they would type in the letter E, and there's plenty of states that have an E somewhere in their name. However, there are no states that start with E. So we want to make sure it's at the very beginning of the name. If this is true, we want to set up a variable that we're just going to call a temp div, because, well, that's what it is. Equals document dot create element div. There's our new temporary div. Temp div dot inner HTML equals this state. This state is the one that we just grabbed out of the states array. tempdiv.onClick. That's what we want to do if they happen to scroll over it and click it. It's set to make choice. tempdiv.className equals suggestions. And finally, we set document.getElement by ID pop-ups, and we append a child on to it. And that child is tempdiv. So for every state that matches what the user has typed in so far, we add a new div onto pop-ups that contains that state. Now we're not done yet, but we don't want to forget that there's a make choice function here. So let's add on function make choice for later. Now we're here at the end of this if. Nothing happens between that and the beginning of the next for. But now we've looped through every state. And for every state that matched, we've added a new div onto pop-ups. So we've hit that point. Now we want to actually put this thing out there and see what we have. So we have a new variable, found count. And that is set to document.getElement by ID pop-ups dot child nodes dot length. That's going to tell us how many states we found. We could be keeping track as we went along, but this simple line will tell us how many matching states we found. And there's really two states we care about. If found count equals 0, well, if there's 0, we know we have an error because at least one should have been found. And if that's the case, we say document.getElement by ID search field. That's the field that they're typing in, remember. Dot className equals error. And this is what makes it go yellow, because we set the CSS that if search field has a class name of error, it turns yellow. So just saying we found 0 states that matched, we know we have an error, so just setting the class name will immediately turn it yellow. However, if found count equals 1, and we have a typo here, this should be 2 equal signs. If found count is 1, then we want to set something else to happen, which in this case is getElement by ID search field dot value, and we're going to be set that to be the only state we've got. It only matched one possible state, so we might as well just put that state in the field. They've typed in CA. There's only one state that begins with CA. Might as well put that in there so they don't have to type in all of California. And so we're going to set that to be document.getElement by ID. Grab the state name that we have out of the pop-ups field, and it's in first child, and it's in the inner HTML of that. And we've got that, so that's filled in. But then we need to blank out the pop-up because there's no point in having it popped up once you've filled in that field. And then finally, we need to finish off the end of the if str isn't equal to anything. And that is all of search suggest. In our next lesson, we'll finish off make choice, and then we'll test out our code and see how well it works.